Hi, it's Miss Dolores from Baldwin Borough Public Library. Welcome back to our part 2 of the Buzz on Bees. In part 1, if you had an opportunity to view it, we met a local beekeeper, Miss Candace, who lives in Baldwin, and who took us behind the scenes of her beehives. And she showed us everything from the frames to the supers to some tools and instruments that she uses in beekeeping. We saw her beekeeper suit. We found out how bees collect the nectar from the flowers, take it back to the hives. And we saw the frames, the honeycombs. So we saw all of that in part 1. So today in part 2, we're going to take a look at what happens once the honey is actually there. What does it look like, and how does it get from in those frames to your table? How does it get to the jars and to the stores? So we're going to take a look at that tonight. We're going to intersperse some behind the scenes video from Miss Candace in her process of harvesting honey. And we're going to see that sometimes not everything goes perfectly, but you'll get to see why. And we're going to work off of this book tonight, How Honey is Made. This is an Abdo Kids book from Abdo Press. One of my favorite series because it's clear and concise. The pictures are amazing, and it's not too long. Gives great information. This is by Grace Hansen. So I'm going to do some reading of this. We're going to kind of backstep into what we learned in the first video, just real quickly to go over remembering the bee's job and how they even get to the point where they are making honey. So I'm going to come a little closer so you can see how is honey made. All right, so there you see an amazing picture, close-up of a bee landing on a flower. Sweet honeybees. Honeybees fly from flower to flower, collecting nectar. They store the nectar in their pollen sacs. Okay, so there are sacs over here on the legs of the bee, and we're going to show you a few close-up pictures right now of what that looks like when the bee has nectar stored in the pollen sacs. The bees fly back to the hive. Other bees suck the nectar out and chew it. This breaks the nectar down into simple sugars. The bees then place it in the honeycomb cells. Okay, so these are the cells that we saw in the last video that were inside the frames, and we're going to show you a couple pictures close up to refresh your memory. Bees flapping their wings creates heat. The heat helps the water in the sugars evaporate. Thick, sweet honey is left over. The bees cap the cells with wax. Okay, when all of the cells that are in this honeycomb get filled with honey, they cap it. So you see how it looks white here? It's like a film that is over top of the actual honey that goes into the jars. So we'll see that close up in these videos in a few minutes. The beekeeper removes each frame. The frames are brought to the honey factory. First, the wax is cut off of the frames. Okay, so we're gonna cut over to Miss Candace, and she's gonna show you some of the frames. At first it starts out as a little problem, but she doesn't use that frame. And then she will show you what a frame filled and capped looks like.
All right, hi, this is Candace. We're looking at a hive here that we call it dead out, meaning the bees died out. And it could be for many number of reasons, but we're looking right now, we see the cocoons or the larval stage of a waxwing moth. We've had problems with these time and time again. The grossest thing is there's little poops everywhere, little pieces of poo. But basically the waxwing moth will attack a hive that's weak, a colony that's weak. They will come in, they will eat all the honey, and then they will make their cocoons everywhere, and then they will poop all over the place, basically ruining the hive. What we're gonna try to do to rectify this is basically switch a couple of these frames out with some healthy bees. And it's been said that bees will be able, if there's enough bees, they will clean this up like the housekeepers they are. Are they all 20?
There they are, the waxwing moths. Those are the adults.
We're on our second hive. We just pulled off one of the shallow honey supers, and if you look and see how this is going, we have what is considered to be capped honey, which is actually like the bees make the honey and then they close it off with wax covering because it has the proper water content. At this point, you can see not that this entire frame isn't completely capped. If you look on the back, an even smaller portion is not capped. So production is down a little bit this year. We are not going to be able to take this because if we were to take this honey that's ready, there might be honey on the outsides that isn't capped, and that would mess up our water content in the honey. So we're going to leave this for the we finally struck gold, haha, in the green hive. You can see that these are now, this is a perfectly beautiful capped frame. Whoa, the other side isn't quite capped, but we will see what we can do with that. We might just be able to deal with the one side. Pulling out another one. I'm gonna show you really quickly, how we get the bees out of here. There's a lot of techniques. There's vacuums, there's sprays, but what we do is the good old bee brush. Gently brush these puppies down. I don't love it, but they don't, I mean, they kind of just go with it. I'm gonna brush them down. And then once we're able to get the majority of the bees off, we have this very high technology contraption of a wet towel and an empty box, and we simply put the frame in there until we take it up to the house.
From harvesting bees, and we were sweating like crazy. It's just a little demonstration.
Oh, man.
Rolling.
All right, so now we have the frames inside the house. You can see this is a full frame of capped honey. We're gonna take a honey uncapper or scraper, or if you wanna like think about, don't use this in your hair. You're gonna get in there, we're gonna start just uncapping the honey and getting that waxy layer off and removed so that the honey will be able to flow freely out for our next step. I like to do this, you can go across, you don't wanna go too deep, but you wanna make sure you get them fully open, because if you don't, you'll have to do it again later. So you do both sides, and we'll show you the extraction soon.
Okay, so we saw Miss Candace's frame, how she used the comb and she combed that off, but first she had to get the bees off of the frame, and she used that gentle brush that just brushes them away, and then how she put it under the towel. So we got to see all of that behind the scenes. The frames are then put into a honey extractor. It spins to force the honey out of the cells. Okay, we're gonna jump back to Miss Candace. You can see this great close-up picture of an extractor. You'll get to see how she places the frames inside the extractor and then what she does to get the honey out of these frames.
Okay, so now you can see the frames have been placed vertically inside the extractor. This is a small extractor. It's like, because I only use it once a year. It's a pretty big investment. Bought it 4 years ago. I used to borrow one before that. But anyway, so we stick the frames in there and we will now get this lined up. I like to really kind of get my body, it uses, you spin it and the honey spins out. So you really want to kind of get it really, really going and just let it spin. And then basically what I do is then I stop it and I will go the other direction. And I'll do this a couple times because it takes a little configuring to get the frames in. So I want to make sure I'm using my time wisely here. So we'll do this for each of the frames, and it'll come down through, there's a screen here, and then it'll come down into the bottom storage area. And we'll finish that up with the jarring process.
Okay, so in all the excitement of Miss Candace filming, she forgot to film this part, but that's okay. That happens. It has happened to me multiple times. So we're just going to show you in pictures the next step before it got to the actual jars. The honey is warmed to make it runnier. Then it is put through a strainer. This process takes out any remaining wax or pollutants. So that means anything that shouldn't be in the honey. So you have to strain it like you would strain pasta. If you cook pasta and put it in a strainer, you want to strain out the water. In this case, they're putting the honey through, and anything remaining that shouldn't be in there will stay in this strainer. The honey is ready to be bottled, and now it can be shipped. Okay, so this is actually looks more like in a factory, but you are still going to be able to see how many jars of honey and how many pounds of honey Miss Candace got out of all the honey that she harvested this year.
Well, in all the excitement, I totally forgot to film the jarring portion, the canning portion, however you want to say it. Basically, the bottom of the extractor has a little latch that you can open, and the honey just comes flowing out. We have a little assembly line system. I think we got approximately 26 and a half jars, 26 and a half pounds of honey this year. So not our best year, not our worst year, but we'll just keep coming back. Thanks for watching.
So some of the like little facts that you may not know is one bee must fly about 55,000 miles to make 1 pound of honey. That's pretty far. A honeybee will visit 50 to 100 flowers in one trip to collect nectar. And an average hive can make anywhere from 30 to 100 pounds of honey each year. Okay, so we saw how many pounds of honey Miss Candace got, and we hope that you have enjoyed part 2 of seeing how the honey is actually harvested. Before we go tonight, I wanted to show you a few other books that you can find at our library or any library. Some of my favorites: How Bees Make Honey. This is the Our Animal World series. This is another How Bees Make Honey. It's the Nature Mystery series. It's written by Michael Shinnery. How Do Bees Make Honey by Melissa Stewart. This is a great book that takes you through the entire process from beginning when the bees are collecting the nectar through honey being made. This is called These Bees Count. This is written by Allison Formento. This is another great book, takes you through the process, called The Bee Man, written by Laurie Krebs and Valeria Sis. And the last one is the one that we just read today, How Is Honey Made by Grace Hansen. So we hope you have enjoyed our little series on bees, and you got to see the entire process. So we're going to be bringing some programs to you this fall like this regarding different topics and showing you behind the scenes of how things work. So thank you for tuning in, and you can stay tuned for information on fall programs. In about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have that all together. So it was great to have you join in today, and we hope you have a great night. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.